You, John. Just want to go quickly through some of the things that we saw at the scientific meeting. If this works, yeah, like as we say, it was split into two different sections: the oral presentation and the poster presentations. And some of the things that we learned over there is that there were a lot of variety of topics that were covered at the meeting, ranging all the way from crop management to pest and disease management, a lot of talks on breeding, physiology, and a lot of presentation also on marketing. And some of the things that we learned, some of the studies that we were really interested in looking at, was this guy from Japan. He was presenting a poster, a talk on how we can use a living mulch in asparagus production, and we were interested in that because that type of work has been initiated here also in Michigan by our colleague Dan Brenner, and we were very happy to notice that other researchers around the world are interested in that topic as well.
Campusol is the world's largest asparagus exporter. The farm has 35 to 50,000 acres in 3 different locations. Major crops are asparagus, avocados, peppers, mangoes, artichokes, and they have about as many acres of asparagus as we have in Michigan in this one operation. They also have 6 processing plants, 3 that are dedicated to canned, 1 to frozen, and 2 to fresh. They produce white asparagus, green asparagus, fresh, frozen, canned, and over 300 different asparagus products. And we were in plants that they were producing white asparagus that day, and it was just amazing how many different size jars and size spears and so on that they were putting up just that day.
Their GAP, to get into the farm, you went through a whole GAP process. They offloaded you off the bus, you washed your hands in bleach, you washed your hands in water, you went through a foot bath. They even took our bus through a pool and then sprayed it off to make sure we were not bringing in any pathogens or anything that they didn't want. And you can see all visitors, this was actually the greenhouses, but pretty similar. We were required to put boots on, except for Todd Greiner, whose feet were too big for any of the boots. They did allow him to wear his tennis shoes after they were treated. But they were very, very careful on sanitation. Oops, again, too much. The hand washing stations that we've all talked about here over the, they look pretty crude, but if you look at them, they would certainly meet GAP certifications. If you read a little Spanish, the signs over those were exactly like the signs that we're supposed to have over ours. You know, they are actually more interested in the global gaps than we are, which in many ways are more difficult, because part of global gaps is not just the microbial part that we're worried about. That actually requires an IPM component. And they were doing IPM. We all questioned, I think Matthew and I particularly questioned how much of it was for show and how much of it was really effective. But they had 1 scout per 50 hectares, which is roughly 100 and some odd acres. That scout was in charge. This one happens to be an avocado scout, but maintaining all the IPM units available, and they had a lot of them. Each field had 1. They actually had biodiversity strips along the edges of their fields. Told the Europeans love things like that. They had windbreaks. This is king grass, a perennial grass. It's really huge. We thought it was sugar cane. If you actually look at the sand blowing around there, you understand why those actually do have a purpose.
They have obviously a very large industry in Peru. They look at this as a star commodity. It's really important to them in terms of job creation, economic development. If you want to be a star company, you got to produce a star commodity. So there were 30 or 40 firms that really had turned asparagus into something that was very important to them and very unique to them. It is almost entirely export driven. They consume very little of the product in Peru itself, and they kind of look at this asparagus thing as we can grow a lot of corn, and we can grow potatoes, and we can grow various livestock products and so on, but asparagus is something we can sell to somebody else. So they really look at this as very important, and it's totally export oriented. They have a large export facility at the Lima airport. We were able to go through that. Couldn't take any pictures of it. I couldn't take anything in with us. Security was very tight there. You had to have your passport to get in. They want to know the list that was going to be there of our individuals. So really, biosecurity is very important to them, but they do have this very impressive export facility at the airport where it goes out by air. Their growth in the last 20 years has been related to exporting green asparagus to the United States. They've always exported a lot of white asparagus also, but most of that goes other places in the world, particularly Europe. And they know about us. They know quite well about us in terms of what our industry is about, what our consumers want. They know about this local thing. They're concerned about that. I'm not sure how much of a threat to it is overall, but they understand what happens here in the United States because we're such an important market to them.